Welcome, everyone, to the Puff Drink Talk podcast. Conrad here.
Hilton.
George.
Jonathan.
Our special guest, Jonathan. Jonathan, let's jump right back into talking about property investments.
Okay.
There's so much. Well, can you guide me? Can you be more specific? A little bit more specific?
If you have not watched any episode that Jonathon was on, Jonathon owns a couple of companies, and one of the things that he also does is property investment.
Yes.
Yeah, for sure. Yeah, we have some single family rentals. We have an RV and boat storage in Liberty Hill. We ran Airbnbs at an 8-plex and a triplex in Rockport, Texas. We have since converted those to long-term rentals. And then we have a 100-unit apartment complex in Corpus Christi. We have a 70-unit in Wichita, Kansas, an 88-unit in Wichita, Kansas, and a 204-unit in Davenport, Iowa.
Wow, so you're really spread out all in different areas.
Oh, my God. Yep.
Are you looking to expand further into different areas, or?
No, actually, we're looking to rehome back here.
Yeah.
So Austin was too expensive for the times when we were doing the commercial, and so we actually did not find the Wichita properties, so interesting story, and I can go into it as much as y'all want me to. But we buy a 70 unit in Wichita. It's the first apartment complex that we were a part of, and I'm this big of a partner, and basically got into it just because my friend and I brought in some of the money for the earnest money deposit, and so that's how we got into the very small partnership that we have. And then I took over management of it about a year later, so the day we closed, which was the 20th of July of 2022, we submitted an offer on our 88 unit in Wichita, Kansas, which is 1.1 miles away from the 70 unit. And so the guy that we bought the 88 unit from, we closed January 6th of 2023. He is now our business partner.
Cool.
So
that's awesome.
Yeah. So the Davenport, Iowa deal is actually his deal. So we helped him with that. We brought in an investor for $1 million to give him some capital because the lender was holding back his insurance payment for all this insurance work, about $1 million worth of insurance work. They said he had to do the work before they'd release it. And so we brought in the money to do the work, and then he got the insurance payment, paid our investor back out. And so.
Yeah, one of the things that in property investment is that you have to find a lot of private money for the renovations and stuff, and then eventually you use bank money after everything's done, right? Or there is a...
It depends how you buy. There's all kinds of ways, right? So you can do syndications. So you pull investor money together, and so you bring in... typical rule of thumb, right, is that you're going to need to bring in, right now, the typical rule of thumb is that you're going to need to bring in 35% down. Most lenders will lend 65%, depending on the lender. And so 65 to 75%. But if you assume you've got to bring in 35% down, and then you also probably need to bring in your CapEx budget. So your work that you're planning to do to the property. And so, if you buy a $10 million property, you're going to need $3.5 million down. $10 million property probably is also going to need about $2 million worth of CapEx, unless you're buying a Class A property.
20%.
That's Yep.
20% of cap.
Yep.
Okay.
And so you're going to need to bring in $5.5 million of private equity. You could bring it in yourself, but the issue and the reason that most people don't do that is because if you have, let's say you have $5.5 million. So let's say you have $6 million. I'd rather take $6 million and split it 6 times and be $1 million of the $5.5 million needed, and invest in 6 properties to spread my risk, because I want 6 horses in the race. I don't want one. And so that's why the syndication model exists and works so well. So
Okay.
Yeah.
No, I was really interested because I had seen on the past up in Georgetown, there's an 8-unit apartment complex for sale. I don't know the history of it, and I don't know. I've never really looked into buying apartment complexes on Zillow before. It's always been houses or renting apartments or renting anything. But and I don't know the exact address, but there's an 8-unit apartment complex for sale for like $800,000. I don't know. I mean, based off of that general information, do you think that would be, I mean, I don't know the area, I don't know the history of it. I'm sure, I think from what I remember reading, it was recently remodeled, and ready to have long-term tenants in it. I mean, would that be something that you would all cash, or would you invest or bring in multiple investors into, or I don't know, just a scenario that kind of throwing out there, see how you would handle that.
So there's a lot to dig into when it comes to that, right? One, I'm a remodeler, so I don't typically like to buy something somebody else already remodeled. Okay. One, the main thing I think in real estate where most people get this wrong, right, is somebody's going to make the money. So we specialize in our remodeling company, right? We have done. I'll give him a shout out. So Gary Gentry with Keller Williams was Gary Keller's very first employee. Okay, we have done all of his make ready since 2010, all. So he is not your. A lot of realtors, what they'll do is they'll tell somebody just to do the real quick things that they can do to get the property on market as fast as possible, right?
Right.
The problem with doing that is that somebody's going to make the money. So if you have a property that you have done a bunch of remodeling to and updating over the time, you should do that. Just get it. Do the little things that you've got to do, get the thing on the market, right? Because you're probably already going to sell at the top of price point. If you've never touched your house, or if you've only remodeled your master bathroom, but your kitchen is still 30 years old and your floors and everything like that, right? There's only 3 people that are going to make the money: you, seller, investor, buyer, or homeowner buyer, right? Someone's making the money. So if the homeowner buyer, right, is how they make the money is, instead of buying a flipped house that's probably not done well because there are so many flippers that are not contractors and don't know what they're doing. And so you should make sure that you have a solid contractor walk that house with you. I can't tell you how many flips that we've gone into and they're done like total utter crap because they did only cosmetic work. So if instead they buy a house that needs to be flipped, they could just flip the house. They can pay just the contractor. Flippers on average are supposed to make about 20%. That's what the target is for most flippers, right? So a flipper has their 20% profit. They have their carry cost, and they have to pay close twice. They have to close on it up front. They have to close on it when they sell.
Right.
So now you have a 20% margin. You have a carry cost and a double close that you're paying for if you buy from that flipper. You instead could buy the house that needs to be flipped, and then you just get the work done and move in. You have instant equity of 25 to 30%.
Right.
So that's how they make the money, right? An investor is me, so I'm a flipper. Comes in, looks at the house, and says, okay, I want to make 20%. I have carry costs, and I have double close.
Right.
And so I'm going to put in an offer that has to allow for that stuff, which is the reason why, Conrad, you're buying a house for you, and you actually can offer 20 to 25% more than I can if you really want the house, because you know that you're going to save that much. You don't have all that cost that I do. You're not trying to make a margin. You're going to move into it. You have margin over time.
Right.
So you can make
I can do all of that in 5, 10, 15 years, whatever.
Or you can do it right when you move in, and you can hold it for 3 to 5 years, and the house is going to go up in value.
Right.
Or you can be a smart seller, and you can do we can do the make ready for you, do all the things that increase the value of your property, and you're going to make 25 to 30 cents on every dollar that you pay us. Where do you get a 25 to 30% return in a month? Tell me where. Yeah. Give me one spot other than a luck of the draw crypto.
Probably luck of the draw crypto.
That's the only one. So it really doesn't make a whole lot of sense.
The guy that was cooking methamphetamine on they might be doing that.
Yeah, for sure. He may be doing that daily.
That's $1 million %, or that's 1,000,000%, but it's like the risk involved.
So that's one of the things that we specialize in. We used to do 30 to 70 of those for Gary every single year. And so on your 8plex question, right? So if they've already remodeled it, now there are lots of people that bought it the wrong time, and they did remodel it. And so you may go in and you may get this thing for a steal because they're already losing their ass. Right. And they just need to get out of it.
And they're just like, fuck it, we're just trying to sell as quick as possible.
So you take in a good contractor that you trust, have them do an inspection for you, not an inspector, a contractor. The inspector is going to tell you all the little nuances of things that need to get done, but they're going to point out a bunch of things also. It's their job, right, to point out every single thing to code. 90% of an inspection report you probably don't need to do, but there's 10% that you do. So the contractor will know the difference and can give you the price. The inspector legally can't tell you pricing, right? And so you take a contractor that you know and you take a look at it, and maybe you see this thing and you're like, okay, all this stuff is done. I don't have to do it now. And So the 1% rule is the most important rule on the planet. That most people, it is the fastest math. I'm a big time numbers guy. It is the fastest math you will ever find. So if you're going to buy a house for $100,000 and it will rent for $1,000 a month, you're making money.
Yeah.
That's all you need to know. So our property taxes and insurance.
Very hard to do in Austin.
Our property tax, it's almost impossible. Yeah. Our property taxes and insurance hurt that a little bit. And so you typically want to try to be a little bit ahead of that. You want to rent for $1,100 a month and buy it for $100,000. But so your eightplex at $800,000, right? You basically, so you break that into each unit. They're $100,000 a unit. You need each unit to rent for $1,000 or more.
Right.
So as long as it is, you have at least started the process to know whether it's worth you even going any further.
Okay.
You have to put it into an underwriting after that to get real serious. So the second most important thing to know is cost basis and build cost. So in general, it costs about $160,000 per unit to build. Okay. So if you're buying it for $100,000 a unit, you're actually held at build cost. So that's also good because it's cheaper than if you went and bought land and built one. So you're ahead there. Now, where most people miss the mark is when you get insurance, your lender is going to require that the insurance company, if you use a lender, insures for the rebuild cost. So a lot of people, when they put it in, they figure their insurance based on paying for an $800,000 rebuild. That's not the case.
Right.
So it's going to cost them actually $1.28 million to rebuild that property.
Right.
So you that the insurance a lot of times will be higher, and people are like, I don't understand why this. It's because the rebuild costs what they're insuring. They don't give two shits how much your property's worth now.
Right.
They care how much you're going to have to pay to rebuild it because again, the lender is actually lending on 8 units. They're not lending on 6. They're not lending on 4. They're lending on 8.
Right.
So,
and how much it is to build it again if something happens to it.
If a meth head explodes it.
Yeah.
Yep. And on average, I think that the other one that you can kind of know as napkin math is so in Texas, because of our property tax rate, typically, especially on a smaller property, your expense ratio is going to be around 60%. On a large property, you're hoping it's going to be more like 45 or 50. But most of the time, especially on a smaller one, 60, maybe even 65%, right? So if you're bringing in $1,000 a month times 8 times 12 is $96,000, right? But if your expense ratio is, call it 60 for ease of math, right? So you've got 40% left. So 40 times, $9,600, right? So you're going to make $39,600. So $39,600 on putting in $800,000 means that you're getting a 4.5% return on your money.
Gotcha. Wow. Okay.
You can keep on asking.
No. That's it's
of course, there are so many other variables that influence
100 million
you,
of them.
Right.
Yeah, for example, if you bought the property if you bought a property here in this area in 2018, it's quite different from buying the property in 2022. And then that the property didn't appreciate. It actually lost value 20-30%. I know based on my property, right? I follow it. I mean, we bought it for a price. At the top was 100% in 3 years. Now it's 50%, 60% of what I bought it in 2019, right?
Right.
So, of course, you got to throw that and compare to other investments. That's the whole thing, for you, right? So you got a service that you also offer, of course, that makes it easier for you to keep buying if it's part of your own property. Because if I have more properties, I'm going to hire a guy like him. I don't want to.
Exactly.
I don't know if I want to. I want to be part of that. I want to be part of the management. Of course, I want to be part of that. I like that, but definitely you got to have someone who knows what. I think time is crucial.
100%.
For like when you're trying to compare investments. Look, we are Brazilian, so I have to all the time. I have to add other variables there. Like is the currency going up or down? Is the inflation in both countries different or not? What is the return? We got a 16% a year back in Brazil. In Brazil, Brazil's currency appreciated 20% against dollar. So you're getting 16% on a currency that's 20% appreciated against the currency. So I have to add those two more variables, right? So it's complicated to bring. For another point for you, I would have investors now coming, from Brazil right away. The problem is if they need to transfer, if something happened to them, they need to transfer the property to their families. That's 50%.
Yeah.
50%. So that barrages impedes Brazilians to invest here, for example. They would have it right away.
Right.
Especially in Florida, Texas, and California, New York, in those places, they would invest right away.
Yeah.
But you see there are barriers, like you maybe have the money, but you have the barriers, so.
Well, but the thing is, for example, the most of your thinking, George, is in residential, like single units.
I'm thinking about multi.
Multifamily, normally there is LLCs, there is trusts also created, so that transfer is a little bit easier because it's done through a trust instead of a property itself. But residential investment is completely different than commercial investment. Even though we say commercial investment, but if it is an apartment complex that is people residents, living there, it still is a commercial investment because it's a multiple units, multiple doors, and things like that.
I also don't think that in a syndication that what George is concerned with, I don't think is the same. I don't think that it applies the same for y'all for your 50% taxes. I don't think that it works the same way. Because you're transferring an ownership stake only, and it's through your LLC, and so in the LLC, the Brazil wouldn't even know probably that the change really happened in the same way, right? Because there's not a title change that happens.
Yeah.
So that's my understanding. We actually have a lot of Chilean investors.
I'll tell you, man.
And
if there is
really?
a path,
a lot.
Really? That's really
a lot.
interesting.
there is a path for that, because you see, they are risk averse.
Yeah.
So once you say, hey, here is the law, and it is possible to make it viable, I'll tell you, tomorrow it's 5 phone calls.
Yeah.
We've been talking about this for a long time,
Right.
but we don't put it in, because we only know the surface of that.
Sure.
But once you dig in that,
Yeah. Well, so I'll ask you all a couple questions, and I assume I know the answers, and so I assume I'll blow your mind on this one. When the market has been down, right, and the market is definitely down right now in terms of buyers, right?
Yeah.
Why?
No
What
idea.
is the driving factor that makes people not want to buy?
Uncertainty?
Interest rates.
Okay.
of course.
Interest rates, right? Yeah. So everybody that you hear that talks about that are sitting on the sidelines, they want the interest rates to go down, right? What happens when the interest rates go down?
Property prices go up.
That's right. So
Yeah.
when everybody was sitting here going, I want the interest rates to go back down to 4%, I'm like, you're an idiot. I want interest rates at 15%. People are like, what? If I can underwrite a deal and it works at 15%, let's say that a property, let's do $1 million property, okay? If there's a property that's $1 million at a 5% interest rate, okay, then that means that when the interest rate goes to 15%, it's not going to go down by 3 times, right? But the $1 million property will probably go down to $600,000, okay? At $600,000 purchase at a 15% interest rate, my monthly payment's probably the same. But so that's how all that's found, right? The reason that Austin and all the main cities have been a problem the last few years is because they didn't come down as much as they were supposed to. That math did not work out exactly like that. Yep. So it came down some, right? But sell me the property at $600,000 at a 15% interest rate, because I now own a property for $600,000. Screw the interest rate. I don't give 2 shits about the interest rate. I can write off the interest rate. I can refinance my property. I can pay off the note at $600,000. If I buy the property at $1 million at 5%, if I refi, I will refi at $1 million property. I will have to bring $1 million to the table to pay it off. So sell me the property at 15%. Let me wait for the interest rate to get to 5. I will cash out refinance and pull $400,000 cash out of the property and keep my same monthly payment and have cash that's tax free. Because when you do a cash out refinance, you pay no taxes on it. It's still a loan. So in 2020. One, I refinanced 5 properties. I pulled $535,000 out of those 5 properties. I only total in all those properties had $110,000 in. So I made $425,000, and every property still cash flows. So
Jesus Christ.
And they still, I didn't even pull out how much that they were worth. 'Cause I didn't need to.
Right.
So I pulled out enough that still gave me a huge cushion.
Yeah.
So I still could sell them today and make another, probably if between the 5, I could probably sell them and make $1 million.
And the other thing also on the investment realm of things that when we talk about, money is probably the easiest part to find to fund a deal than actually finding the deal itself. So, and then that's where the problem is like, hey, is there enough deals so that we can actually get investors, like what George is saying? So because that's what I see. So, all of the, I know all of the big dogs, right? Because I've done like 7 of their weekends and stuff, yeah. And I've met a lot of people, and I have some friends that comes to my event as well. It's just like that. It's like, now we don't have a problem with finding the money, because if we have the deal, everybody wants to put their money in. So the problem is finding the deal itself, like, exactly as you just mentioned, on another episode. Like, it was hard to find deals during the pandemic time because all the property prices are going up so much because the interest rate was down.
Right.
So it's harder to find deals, but it's not as hard to find the money to fund the deals.
So, this is true. It depends on where you're looking. The problem is that most investors, they want to know the area they're investing. We were under contract on a 112-unit property in Killeen just a few months ago, and but my investors are not from around here, so they don't know Killeen, and so they and Killeen.
I'm sorry, I just have a distaste for Killeen.
Join the club.
Okay.
But here's the deal. So this property, though, we were under contract for $34,000 a door. Okay. I just told you the build costs $160.
Yeah.
And on top of that, it's at 55% occupancy, and it's just being mismanaged by the owner. So if you
opportunities.
God. So and the thing is that in Killeen, because everything is so expensive in Austin and in Temple, people rent in Killeen, 1, because of Fort Hood, but 2, because they can rent in Killeen for $750 for a larger 1-bedroom than they can rent in Austin for $1,200 to $1,400. And they can just drive 15 minutes to Temple or 15 minutes to Georgetown or 25 to 30 minutes into Round Rock and Austin. Yeah. And so there's not a lot that is in Killeen for them, but it's super cheap for them to have cost of living.
Right.
And it's $34,000 a door. So the purchase price, we were going to have to do a heavy lift, but even with the heavy lift, that we were going to be all in for $55 a door, and the property was going to look brand new. We were doing all new windows, parking lot, new gates and fences, turning all units, whole new roof, all siding repairs, full paint. It was going to look like an A-class property, and we didn't underwrite it for any rental increases because we were keeping it super conservative, and it currently rents for $680 a door. So
Jesus Christ!
If it rents for $680, you can buy it for
34%
or for $34,000.
Yeah.
You're almost double. And they were renting for $850 a door until it's just been going down because the current owner doesn't have the money to put in and just needs to get out from under it.
Right.
So the deals exist, but trying to explain that to investors. If I had the money myself, I would have bought that one flat out, because the lowest property in the last 10 years that I sold there sold for $39,000 a door, and it was an abandoned property. It had no units rented, and that was $39,000. We're buying one that has over 50% occupancy for $34,000. Yep. So,
Jesus Christ.
So there's always different things, but we get probably 40 deals a day sent to us.
Really?
Between my partner and I. Yeah.
God damn.
Well, I'll remove what I said. It's easy to find deals if you talk to Jonathon, and I think we're gonna wrap this episode. And thank you once more for your wisdom and knowledge and everything else.
Yeah, thank y'all for having me on.
Yeah.
We have to have you on more often, as it's always great talking to Jonathon.
Thank you so much.
Absolutely. Thank
Yeah,
you.
for sure, guys. Thank you very much.
Don't forget to like, comment, and subscribe to the podcast on YouTube, and give us a follow on Spotify.
See ya.